Hey folks, this is Steve Kodad. Welcome to another tip for Feng Shui for real estate success. Today, we're going to be talking about, believe it or not, the international home buyer. And whether you know it or not, it is a big part of our economy, big part of real estate in this country. If you look at this particular picture, it gives you a pretty good visual idea of how huge the market really is. Uh, the big egg on the left-hand side is the foreign investment for the United States. And it, of course, overshadows all the other countries by a lot, by a lot. For example, the next 20 countries, including the United Kingdom, which is second, they just add up to 165 billion per year for these several years. And the United States was over 222 billion at the same time. So it's not even really close. So a lot of people from around the world decide to invest their dollars into real estate in the United States. And why not take advantage of that situation? Now, I don't know about you, but I always loved foreign home buyers, and you really should too, no matter where you are in this country. There are certain parts of the country, of course, that pull in the most, but every state has particular buyers from particular parts of the world. And nice thing, foreign buyers, they just typically purchase more expensive properties, which means, of course, a bigger commission for you all. And another really great feature of foreign investors is half the time, at least, they pay with cash. That's certainly very nice. Now, if you look at this particular chart, it gives you a very good indication of how much more of an expensive properties year after year after year they actually buy. They're represented by the blue bars, and everybody else is represented by the red bars. And this just represents from 2011 to 2016, but I promise you it hasn't changed. So a major reason why international buyers really like investing in the United States of America is it's less expensive. Isn't that amazing? And again, you can see that in Florida, for example, that was the number one reason year after year. And this is true from a lot of other states, but there are a few areas which that maybe is not quite the same difference. For example, there are parts of California that are prohibitive, and certainly in New York City. But for the most part, they really get a large bang for their buck. Many of these buyers, many of them are quite interested in feng shui. And of course, that is my niche. And so I wanted to let you know that a lot of these people do have an interest for you to have some knowledge in this area. These are the top five residential foreign investors: China, Canada, Mexico, India, and the UK. And in 2013, the Chinese actually passed the Canadians. And, the Canadians were there for a long, long time. But every one of these particular countries, certainly China, are interested in some use of the techniques of feng shui. For example, in Canada, there are several cities that are definitely into it. For example, the Toronto area, and very, very much the Vancouver area. So if you're lucky enough to be working with somebody from those areas, it's conceivable that it would be to your benefit to know something about it. Mexico, I know that probably is a surprise, but I am in contact with other feng shui practitioners around the country at times. And I was surprised to find out that in California, several of them make most of their living from working and evaluating homes for people from Mexico. India has its own version of feng shui, and it's called Washnu, and it's extremely similar to feng shui techniques. And the United Kingdom, you know, they have been all around the world uh, locating, and they certainly have hotbeds there too. It's not just London. So just to give you a sort of a flavor of where some of these people go to, there are particular states that they favor. And let me point out a couple of them. But again, I don't want to give you the idea these are the only places they look. It's not. The Chinese look primarily in areas of California and New York. California for proximity, New York just because it's sort of a melting pot. And the Canadians have always favored Florida, and I think it's just because they're trying to warm up. The UK, they also seem to favor Florida, but they're also trying to warm up too. If you've ever been to the United Kingdom, the weather there can change pretty drastically at times. So there are reasons why. Some of it is employment, okay, some of it is the weather, and so forth. I think you might find this little thing pretty interesting. I'm going to run it several times, but this has to do with the population that was foreign that were moving across the country throughout the years. And it's sort of interesting to me where they started to buy, and then when it started to pick back up. It started to pick back up in the 1990s a lot. And here in 2010, you can see with the darkest areas, they were really buying a lot in those areas. Let's go back to 1850. Again, there was a lot of movement, a lot of immigration across the country. And you can see they were moving to the west. And then World War I happened, the Depression. Here's World War II. And then it sort of peaked off a little bit, and then it started to pick back up again. So here we are, 2010 again. So immigration's been around a long, long time. So the criteria that most foreign home buyers are looking for, number one really is security. And I think that makes sense. They're very interested in making sure that they're going to be as secure as possible in their new home. And I'm not just talking about this situation, you know, certainly this might be one of the possibilities that you might want to consider. So they have maybe a gated community, but they're also wanting easy access to the amenities like grocery stores and drugstores. But security is definitely number one. Feng Shui is all about feeling very, very safe and secure. And so, you know, that makes sense that following feng shui techniques is something that a lot of them are really into. They want to feel that way. It's very, very important to them. So certainly international buyers are looking for it. But you know something, we all are. We really all are looking for a feeling subconsciously of being safe and secure in our neighborhoods. So feng shui gives this to a buyer. It gives it to the buyer on the subconscious level. If you've listened to any of my other tips, you know that I keep bringing up the subconscious, how feng shui affects us so drastically. So I hope you enjoyed that tip. You know, some of you probably have considered foreign investors before, but it's something you should all think about. Feng shui is definitely all around the world.